How's it going, everyone? It's Avi from Weather Sponge 1000. Today is March 24th, 2021, and today we're obviously going to focus on the potentially extreme, severe weather threat that's going to happen in the southeast later during the week. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So let's begin by taking a look at the GFS model right now, and you see there's a trough moving through the northern Midwest at this point, the one we've been talking about over the past several days, and it's moving along the jet stream, and there's just enough unstable air to at least have some convection surrounding it for some precipitation to occur. However, this isn't anything major by all means. It isn't really going to produce much of a major severe weather threat. There might be a chance of severe weather tonight throughout Louisiana and extending to Alabama and the Panhandle of Florida. But other than that, it won't be a widespread or very impactful severe weather threat at all you're going to experience from this trough, and it'll move north, maybe bring a decent amount of snow to northern Minnesota, so keep and watch of that. However, obviously the main trough we're going to focus on is this next one that's currently right around Colorado and New Mexico at this point, and you see right behind this trough there's an abundance of cold air, and that's not something you want to see, especially during the early spring, because if that cold air does interact with that very warm Gulf of Mexico air, it's going to make the air molecules very buoyant in this region, and we're going to see a lot of lift in the atmosphere to create those severe thunderstorms in the southeast, as is typically the season where severe thunderstorms are most prevalent in the southeast. So when we see a trough bringing a lot of cold air behind it, that usually pretty much sets the stage for major severe weather for the southeast, and this scenario will be no different. As you see, there's a lot of cold air behind this trough. The jet stream does dip just far south enough to create some sort of convection right around the southeast. We're going to see a lot of lift in the atmosphere because denser and more compact air parcel is going to move into the very light air parcel, which will force a lot of the lighter air molecules up along with that water vapor, and it'll condense and evaporate water at a very rapid rate, which will induce rapid convection in this region to create just very a major severe weather threat in the southeast. So as you see, as this trough moves through, we do see some precipitation through Texas, as there's a good amount of precipitation all throughout Texas, and then you see that this storm rapidly intensifies into a 996 millibar low pressure system, which is quite a low pressure system, and it's quite formable at that. And then you see it rapidly intensifies once it encounters an area of even more instability with the warm air that's located along the east coast and the cold air that's located to the northwest of it. And you see that this storm has plenty of unstable air to create a major severe thunderstorm threat in the southeast. As you can see, there's a very heavy rain squall of rain from the GFS model. Obviously, this is a little exaggerated from the GFS model. The showers should be more widespread than this, but in general, you should expect a lot of severe weather and thunderstorm activity throughout Tennessee, and even extending as far north as Kentucky, and especially the northern portions of Mississippi and Alabama, where the severe weather threat should actually be the worst for you guys. Let's take a look at the surface space convective available potential energy, because it gives a good idea of how much lift will be in the atmosphere headed into this Thursday and into Friday, where the severe weather threat should be at its worst, and it will really give a good idea of where that convective energy will be located. Let me refresh this, get this map loading up to show you guys how much convective available potential energy will be in the southeast. And you see that moving forward, we do see the darker grays, which represent higher convective available potential energy, obviously, and the yellows represent even more than that. And if we continue to move forward, you see that we see more convective energy lingering through the southeast, because as this trough moves further and further to the southeast, it's going to force a lot of the lighter air molecules and the water vapor up. As a result, it's going to create an area of plentiful convective available potential energy through the southeast, and you see that it even expands even more once the cold air interacts more and more with the very warm air pretty much located right around the Gulf of Mexico. As you see, the convective available potential energy does peak right around 2,500 joules per kilogram, which is quite a lot of convective energy in the atmosphere at this time. So expect a lot of lift in the atmosphere, expect a lot of thunderstorm activity, and with convective available potential energy like this, it's pretty much asking for a major severe weather threat, since those extremely strong updrafts really create these severe thunderstorms. They really make these thunderstorms severe because they bring the very damaging winds as a result of just a rapid expansion of air molecules to the upper levels of the atmosphere, which will allow the downdrafts to rapidly fill in for that loss of air molecules in the surface. So we see damaging winds as a result of that. The updrafts create large hail, and strong updrafts also create very strong wind shear, which would induce tornadoes. And we're going to see that headed into Thursday and into Friday. But now let's take a look at the forecasted upper level winds by the GFS model, because it gives a good idea of how much wind shear is going to be located right around the southeast at this time to see how big of a tornado that should be expected. And you see the upper level winds are quite strong in this region, and it's going to be in an area where there's going to be a lot of moisture, so the thunderstorms will be able to feed off a lot of that latent heat. And if we take a look at the upper level winds, you see that the winds do shift ever so slightly, and the wind shear might be just strong enough to induce a major tornado threat. Let's take a look at another location such as Mississippi, and look at that shift in the wind direction with height. Along the surface where the millibar pressure is around 1,000 millibars, we do see the winds are primarily coming from the south. But if you go up into the upper levels of the atmosphere, I'd say higher than the 500 millibar mark of the atmosphere, we do see the winds shift directly to the west. And when we see the winds shift with height that rapidly, that's pretty much asking for a major tornado threat, since the interaction between the surface winds and the upper level winds creates sort of a rotation in the atmosphere that really helps induce these tornadoes. And you see that wind shear is just very strong with a huge shift in the wind direction with height, and that's going to create a major tornado threat, which makes me really concerned about what is going to happen to the southeast. And the European model, for the most part, is forecasting the same thing. If we take a look at what the European model is forecasting, you're going to see that there's a lot of wind shear in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and that's going to pretty much create a major severe weather threat throughout the southeast. And taking a look at the European model, you see that. Let's take a look at the European model's radar forecast, the European high resolution radar, let's first take a look at the wind shear provided from the European model. And you see, if we move forward, once that troughs move further southeast, there's going to be a ton of wind shear, plenty for damaging winds, a large-scale tornado threat, and potentially hail by how much lift there will be in the atmosphere. Let's take a look at the radar, though, because it gives a good idea of what to expect when it comes to rainfall throughout the southeast and even headed further up northward. If you take a look at that, now the computer models are in pretty good agreement of what's going to happen. There isn't any uncertainty like in my last forecast where both the computer models have completely different strengths or a somewhat different track. They're pretty similar at this point. So I'd say for the most part, the forecast should be certain. If you're in the southeast, you need to prepare for a major severe weather threat and potentially a major tornado outbreak. And for those further up northward, especially towards the Ohio River Valley, prepare for potentially a heavy rain threat and most likely a strong wind threat. And this even extends to the northeast, where wind gusts could occasionally gust over 60 miles per hour. And it's not surprising why, because we see this storm rapidly intensify into a 984 millibar storm at one point right around Indiana. And if you don't know, that's equivalent to maybe a category 1 hurricane. So this is quite a strong storm. It's quite rare to see a storm this magnitude, especially this late in the spring, when we typically don't see this late in the winter or spring, early spring, when we typically don't see as much unstable air interactions in the atmosphere, unless obviously we do see a hurricane in the summer. But in terms of a mid-latitude cyclone, this is quite strong and not something we typically see every day. And you see that it continues to move further westward as was along with the eastward along with the jet stream, impact the northeast, where we do see a large area getting affected by very strong winds. Let's take a look at the GFS model's wind forecast, and it really gives a good idea of how much winds to how strong the wind should be in your given location. So if we move forward in the forecast, this is a 10-meter wind speed, which is average height where the weather stations measure the amount of wind. And you see that as the storm strengthens, the wind will also strengthen, where we do see the greens, which represent winds higher than 24 knots, which is equivalent to 30 mile per hour wind sustained, not even gusts. I'm talking about sustained. So I think wind gusts will gust well over that. And obviously we could see wind gusts over 50 miles per hour. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's over 60, especially if you're closer to the Great Lakes, where the friction is very limited and the wind won't be prevented or slowed down by any friction in the lakes. And we do see reds and yellows in the lake, which is pretty much equivalent to 40 knot winds, which is 45 to 50 mile per hour sustained winds, which is quite strong. And we do see that wind extend even further into the northeast, such as Pennsylvania, New Jersey, upstate New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts. You guys are all involved with this as well, as this is going to be a very powerful wind event you need to pay close attention to, and make sure to bring those loose things inside. But obviously the main threat and the main concern will be the severe weather in the southeast, as I'm very concerned for you guys, as it's most likely going to be a major threat. In terms of where you should expect the worst of the severe weather, you see that if you're in the reds, obviously this will be the area where you're most likely to get impacted the worst, where the most tornadoes will occur, the most severe thunderstorms will occur, and it's just going to be an all around just chaotic event throughout the red area. And you need to prepare as if there's going to be an extreme tornado event, because while there might be only one tornado, it only takes one tornado to completely destroy a community. So you do not want to underestimate these severe thunderstorms or the potential tornado outbreak that could occur right around the northern southeast states. And even outside that, there's a moderate severe weather chance. So be prepared for any sort of severe thunderstorms, because certainly under the possibility, if you're under the moderate severe weather threat, while the tornado threat and also the severe weather threat does diminish a little bit, there's still a good chance you will experience a severe thunderstorm in the moderate severe weather threat. So we need to pay close attention to that. And you see just to the north of that, the major wind threat will be the concern, more towards Friday, where we could see wind gusts over 60 miles per hour. And if we take a look at the timing of this to give you guys a good idea of when to prepare, we do see some thunderstorms right around Wednesday afternoon as a result of this trough that's passing by, bringing just enough unstable air and convection towards Louisiana, but not enough to be a major severe weather threat. However, once this next trough comes in, we do begin to see the squall lines develop right around late Wednesday into very early Thursday, Unfortunately, a lot of these thunderstorms, the severe thunderstorms, will happen during the nighttime, and Unfortunately, your tornado lives are two times more at risk in a tornado or severe thunderstorm at night than during the day. So you need to stay prepared overnight for you guys right around Mississippi, especially Arkansas and extending to Tennessee. And then by morning, we do see thunderstorms move further north, but then there's going to be another round of thunderstorms Thursday afternoon, in which could produce some tornadoes as a result of daytime heating, really creating an unstable environment in the southeast. So yeah, it should be a major severe weather. You need to prepare for this. And in terms of how much rain to expect, we do currently the forecast is close to 5 inches of rain right around the northern Alabama, Mississippi, and throughout Tennessee as well. And we do see a decent amount of rain even extending further northward, where over 2 inches of rain is expected in Indiana and those in the extreme northern portions of the Northeast. So it is something to keep a close eye on all throughout the eastern half of the United States, whether it comes to wind, flooding, and severe weather, because this will be major. And I want you guys to all be safe during this time and make sure to prepare in case of the worst, because it's better to be safe than sorry. But anyways, guys, I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. If you want to see more weather-related content, make sure to like. If you like this video, make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. And I hope you guys have a good day.